What's up, Cerebral NFL fans? Happy Monday, January 3rd, 2022. Got to make sure I say that one correctly now. This is Steve Hyder, and I greatly appreciate you guys tuning in for your daily allotment of Cerebral NFL news and Philadelphia Eagles news. Hey, we're in the playoffs. What a journey, guys. What a journey, because we were told that this team was really, really bad. And to be quite honest, it didn't seem like we had a shot early on when we were 2-5, did it? But we became, I believe, the 9th franchise since the playoffs were expanded to 12 teams for us to actually end up 2-5, start off 2-5, and then end up in the playoffs. So I'm going to say right from the jump, because I think this needs to be said, because I see some of the comments and from Twitter sphere, and I got to push back a little bit against people because I think they're missing the forest for the trees. Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, and this Philadelphia Eagles football team deserves a lot of credit for winning 9 football games this season and putting us in the playoffs. I hear the arguments, guys, and I get it. It's complex, and I'm going to get into it, right? I understand that when you look at our wins and the quarterbacks we faced, it's been against Matt Ryan and Sam Darnold, Jared Goff and Teddy Bridgewater, Trevor Siemian and Zach Wilson, Garrett Gilbert and Jake Fromm / Mike Glennon, because they kind of switched them up at half. Tyler Heineke, I get it. We lost to guys like Daniel Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo. But let's be honest, they're taking shots at the defense when they say that. And I think there's a legitimate concern to say, I don't know how well we are going to play against better quarterbacks, against better offenses. I don't know that either. But we're playing with house money. We're playing straight up with house money. I'm excited for what we're going on here. And I got to push back with some numbers because you guys know I do research. I got to push back because 6 of these dudes we held under 300 yards. Matt Ryan, 260 yards. Sam Darnold, 267. Jared Goff, 228. Zach Wilson, 281. Garrett Gilbert, 237. Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon, 192. So they were under 200 yards. And a couple of these guys, well, the rest of these guys, the other 3, we were literally 20-some yards off of holding every one of these guys to under 300 yards. Heineke, we were 13 yards away last night. He put up 312 on us in total. The Washington offense did. Trevor Siemian put up 323. We were 24 yards off of holding him to under 300. Teddy Bridgewater put up 308. We were basically 9 yards away from holding him under 300 yards. So all 9 of these dudes, if we're going to take shots at the defense did its job. And then if you even add in the bad losses we had against subpar quarterback play, which I think is fair, but it wasn't the defense. The defense held Daniel Jones to 264 total yards, 202 yards in the air. They shut Daniel Jones down. Daniel Jones did not win that football game. Our offense was the problem in that game. Jimmy Garoppolo, he put up 306 yards. We were 7 yards away from holding him under 200 yards. And by the way, it wasn't him because Jimmy Garoppolo was under 200 yards passing. It was the running game that got started. They started hitting us with that outside zone when they started basically going under center and pitching it to get to the edges to defeat our run defense. And that was before, San Francisco, to be honest, before we made a lot of adjustments defensively, if we're going to be fair. And the defense held us in that game. So some of the things that I'm hearing said here, I think it's a little bit of missing the forest for the trees. Yes, we don't know how good this team's going to be against better levels of competition. There's no doubt about it. I'm not stating that otherwise. But I am stating we're playing with house money. And when we played these dudes, when we played these guys, we beat them soundly. Like the defense has done its job. And I'll be honest with you, the energy is not the same because I remember being told in live streams from other fan bases that we were going to be shocked at how good Garrett Gilbert was. And I said, he ain't that good. He played well given the circumstances, but I told them, before the game, pre-game, I said, yeah, I'm sorry, man. I know football. I know quarterback play. I've seen this guy play before. He ain't that good, man. He's going to do what you ask him to do, but he's not going to win a football game for you. I was told that Trevor Siemian, you're underestimating how good Trevor Siemian is. This is not just a layup for the Eagles. It was more than a layup, man. It was a wide open layup. No one even within half court. So I'm sorry. Those dudes weren't good, and their fan bases were trying to sell us that those dudes were good. And I told them all about Trevor Siemian because I knew him from Denver. I knew what he did there, and I knew what he was about. And I said, yes. People look at him and say, look, he hasn't really turned the ball over that much, but they don't know that he plays in streaks. And there were streaks where he was turning the ball over, and I knew that if you put pressure on him, he'll turn the football over. So I'm going to be honest, man. Not everybody keeps the same energy at times about stuff. I'm just going to be real with people. They don't. And Here's the other thing that bothers me about people's analysis. It's about, like, oh, you only beat the bad teams. Like, yeah, no crap. If we beat some of those other teams you're talking about, we wouldn't be a playoff contending team. We'd be a Super Bowl contending team. That's the difference there. But make no mistake about it, the number one seed in the NFC is the Green Bay Packers. How much of that has to do with they play the NFC North? Did you see Aaron Rodgers' numbers versus the NFC North? Like, come on, man. How much of that has to do with the NFC North? Get out of here with this nonsense, people. Get out of here with it. So, here's what I want to talk about today, guys. I want to talk about what this front office had to overcome, what this coaching staff had to overcome, what this young quarterback had to overcome. Because let's be real. Go back to 2019 as we ended that 2019 season, everybody. Right? You got a head coach that's very good at certain aspects of the game, the job. Right? No one's, Doug had his strengths. There's no doubt about it. I was a big Doug Peterson fan. I didn't think he should have been fired, but if you guys remember, I made a video after the Washington game and I told you something doesn't feel right about this. Be on the lookout. Everyone told me I was crazy and I was right. He's not so great at other aspects of the job. Give me a second. I'm not taking shots at Doug. I'm a Doug guy. But one of the things that he wasn't very good at was growing his coaches. And that led us into a huge, huge fiasco because he couldn't develop coaches. What ended up happening is that his inability to develop coaches ended up leaking down or leaching down onto the football field because then we started not being able to develop players. It was all kind of cyclical here. Then we come down to the end of season press conference. Doug Peterson tries to, play chess on Howie Roseman, tries to come out there and guarantee the jobs of Mike Groh and Carson Walch. I thought Mike Groh got a bad deal because I think Mike Groh is better than the fan base realized. I don't think Mike Groh was like great or anything, and I don't think he was without fault. You can't say stupid things in press conferences like, I don't know how to use a dude. But I do think he was better than the average fan understood as a coordinator. And there's a reason why he got a job real quick in the league after he got fired here. But Carson Walch, I'm sorry, Doug was wrong. The dude needed to be fired. He was bad. I still think that head coaches should have the right to retain their staff. You should live and die by the decisions you make in terms of that. And I think our front office learned that the hard way. But I still think the front office was right. It's just I don't agree with the way they went about doing it. In saying that, you guys know I was never a Press Taylor guy. And I never doubted the young man's football mind because several NFL front offices liked Press Taylor. I just said he wasn't a quarterback coach. He didn't really have the background as a quarterback. He really didn't have the experience coaching quarterbacks. And we were just basically trying to plug him in somewhere to kind of groom and elevate him in a position where we didn't really think we would need him. We thought Carson could handle it, and that was really wrong, to be quite honest, right? So we start the 2020 season, and there's this total and utter collapse. Just keep in mind what we stepped into this year. It was a complete and utter collapse. The front office, the quarterback, and the head coach decided to have some kind of a secret war with one another. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous because I don't think any of them were intentionally doing things per se, but I think all three of the energies were off between the front office, the head coach, and the quarterback of this team in 2020. I think the energies were off of all three at some point during the season. And I think it's why we fell on our faces in 2020. We only won 4 games. We lost 7 out of our last 8 to end 2020. That's how bad 2020 was. Okay? Make it worse in the offseason. We learned Carson Wentz wants out. Doug Peterson is fired. Carson Wentz wants out. And we're trying to, make up this franchise here. We're trying to figure it out on the fly. Think about this, guys. When Nick Sirianni stepped in, at one point, this cap was $90 million over. It was 90 plus million over at one point. That was what was laid before him as a head coach. By the way, your franchise quarterback, supposed franchise quarterback, is likely going to walk out. He's likely going to want to trade, but we're going to try to retain him for you. Okay? And you're getting a situation to where we don't know what you got at wide receiver. You're going to have to figure that out as a coach that specializes in it. Oh, and on top of that, you're $90 plus million over the cap. So the amount of money we're going to have for free agency to build your roster is going to be quite limited. This is what they overcame this season. It's missing the forest for the trees to say like, oh, well, you beat, Garrett Gilbert. You beat Jake Fromm. You beat Tyler Heineke. You beat Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater and Trevor Siemian and Sam Darnold. Like, yeah, but also people were predicting us to lose to those guys too. So which one is it, guys? Which one is it? Did this team outperform expectations, or are we just lucky? Or is it maybe just a little of both? We caught luck. We outperformed expectations, and this team was as Tony Romo said to begin the season, better than people thought. He talked about how good the offensive and defensive line was. Tony Romo did at the beginning of the season, and he said, this team's better than people realize. Brandon Graham, when all looked lost and Brandon Graham was injured, I think we were maybe 1-4 at the time, 1-3. We're somewhere in that area. It looked bad at the time. Brandon Graham goes on, I believe it was Jacob Media, and he says, this team's going to make the playoffs, make no mistake about it. And everyone almost laughed at him like, what are you talking about? This team's not a playoff team. Except for he was right. It was a playoff team. It did make the playoffs. Brandon Graham deserves credit for telling people way back in like late September, early October, this is a playoff team. This is a playoff team. He told people right from the jump. It's crazy to me, man. What this team overcame to become a playoff team is getting lost in Negadelphia. It's just getting lost to some people in Negadelphia, guys. And it's completely frustrating because it's undermining just how much this team accomplished. And yes, this is a measuring stick. We don't know how good this team is yet. I admit that. We don't know how it's going to play against better defenses. Our offense. I'll admit that. There are times where I do question game management decisions, right? I mean, we got the second possession of the second half yesterday. We got a pretty good run. We cross over the 50-yard line, and then we go into 3 straight passes. Probably could have reapproached that a little differently, Nick, to be quite honest. But I'm also not going to take away what this team has accomplished because it's accomplished a lot, and it deserves credit that I don't feel it's getting. All right, y'all, let's get into some comments, and then I want to talk about potential opponents who were scheduled to play currently, and then I'll talk about what I saw from just a very minor breakdown of looking over them on the surface level. So, guys, I'm excited. What's up, Allison? How are you doing? I appreciate you tuning in. Allie, she said, start everyone that we don't have film on. Reed Sinnett, Huntley, Holyfield, Gainwell, if possible. JJ, Greg Ward, Rager, Stahl, Jackson, Dillard, Apeta, Anderson, Clark, Toth, Kerrigan. Time to rest the starters. Unless we try to play for the 6th seed. I don't know what they're going to do, Allie. I'm not really sure. Hard to say. Really, really difficult to say right now. And then defensively, you're saying that start guys we have question marks on to learn more about them. Ridgeway and Tui Pelota and Williams and Jackson and Johnson and Bradley, McPherson and Gowan and Scott and Vincent Jr., Wallace and Epps. Yeah, I don't hate that idea, especially if we're just, we're pretty content on being the 7th seed and wanting to rest our guys. And we have the Saturday night slot, by the way. So we're playing Saturday night at 8:15. So I'm not a huge fan of that. It's weird. I don't know why they're doing that. It's not necessary for week 18. What's up, Jeffrey? How you doing? Richard Kane, how you doing, buddy? I appreciate you coming in, man. Isn't there still a chance to move up to the 6th seed? Is it even worth it? And will the front office see it that way? There is a chance, Richard. I don't know if it's worth it or not. That's a matter of opinion. I'm not really sure. But, the opportunity cost, guys. I always talk about things in terms of opportunity cost. We might drop a game if we start those other players, and we might end up 9-8 instead of 10-7. We might end up the 7th seed instead of the 6th seed because if San Francisco loses, we do have a chance at taking that 6th seed. But in saying that, we can rest our guys and we can evaluate the other guys. So, it works both ways. There's always an opportunity cost. Eagles Realist, what's up, buddy? Appreciate you being here. Victory Monday, you're right. I always call it Overreaction Monday. NFC East Beast, let's keep it real. The Eagles haven't beaten a team with a winning record. They beat teams with a 43-84 record, a 30% winning percentage. I'm happy to see extra football and meaningful football. Right, but that's what I'm talking about, NFC Beast. It's missing the context of things. It's missing the forest for the trees. Right, I don't know. I'm not projecting that we're going to win games in the playoffs. I don't know. We haven't seen us play against that level of competition. But there are people out here trying to steal credit from this team for what it accomplished. And I don't think that's right. Eagles Realist said, we don't make the schedule, we just play. No such thing as house money. Count your money when the deal is done. I disagree with you, NFC Beast. There's absolutely house money when you already have a top 15 pick currently and you own another organization's pick plus your pick in the first round. You're absolutely playing with house money in the playoffs. It's house money. I'm sorry. There's no other way of looking at that. You're playing on house money. They let you in. The NFL let you in. This is house money. They expanded the playoffs to 7 teams. We're the team that it got expanded for right now. It's house money, in my opinion. You're playing with straight up house money. Eagles really said, talk to him, GM Steve. Appreciate you, Crypto. How you doing, buddy? Just got off my overnight shift at the ED. Great to see we clinched the playoff spot. Go Eagles. Yeah, Jeff, we sure did, man. Messiah said, yo, in school now. I am a former teacher, guys. Crypto says, Steve, you know, just the Jets' pass defense is better than Washington football team. That's third worst by pass yards allowed. Right, but we're not. Still, it doesn't matter. The victories are the victories, Crypto. Those teams, you know, Washington was slated to be better than the Eagles. It's the bottom line. Some analysts had Washington picked to be a repeat NFC East champ. No, you shouldn't, because Hurts is better than Minshew, Crypto. He just is, man. I'm sorry. There's some things that Minshew does well. I do think Minshew could start over guys. He doesn't have the same ceiling as Jalen Hurts. No, you never play Minshew over Hurts in meaningful games. All right. Marky Max said it's tough to win in the NFL, regardless if they played a few backup quarterbacks. What's up, Aishan? How you doing, man? NFC East B says Eagles get the 6th seed if Atlanta wins and San Francisco loses, no matter if the Eagles win or lose. I always look at it this way: just take care of your business, and you already clinched, so it doesn't. To me, it is what it is, man. You're in. It's hard to play for seeding. Just play who's in front of you. Just play our best. What's the status of Taylor? I don't really know, Kevin Taylor. That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I have no clue what his actual, status is currently. So Dallas beat the same bad teams, and they are way overrated with that logic. No, Dallas lost to some of these teams, like Denver, to be quite honest. I don't think Dallas is under or overrated. I think Dallas is what Dallas is. It's a team that has a great, a high-scoring offense when it's clicking, but right now it's in a bit of a slump. I think that it lost its identity a little bit towards the back half of the season because it got away from its running game a little bit, and its running game was what really was driving everything. And then on top of that, it's got a defense that's very much turnover worthy and can get pressure on you, but I don't think it's particularly good run defense, to be quite honest. I mean, Dallas is what Dallas is. You play to win the games. Exactly, China Banks. Lada said, crypto, putting Minshew in is like eating Nathan hot dogs when you should be eating Cookout hot dogs, buddy. That's funny. I didn't even see Atlanta on this week's schedule. I haven't even looked to see. I just saw the Eagles were slated for the Saturday night game. Raining cats and dogs here. Nasty. It's snowing out my way. NFC East Beast. Should we resign Steven Nelson? I don't know, man. I mean, it depends on what the value is of the contract. He's still young enough to stay here. He's okay. I mean, he's not horrible, but I certainly think you should be trying to upgrade over him. But he is a pretty good safety net to have, especially if the contract is going to be right. T. Lewis says, I don't understand why Gannon doesn't decide to bring extra rushers until the second half. Shaking my head. Hard to say, but one thing I will say, T. Lewis, is like one aspect that gets lost off of all this is that everyone talks about like, oh my God, Garrett Gilbert and Jake Fromm, and then you had Trevor Siemian. Like, yeah, but also the nature of that is being not really understanding exactly what they're going to do, especially when you got a situation like even when you played Daniel Jones, the offensive coordinator got fired, so you're trying to see what wrinkles might be added to the game plan that can mess you up and make your first half adjustments, put you behind. And then when you see what they're doing and you make the adjustments. But I do agree that, maybe, he's not going to be an overly aggressive defensive coordinator. I'm not going to ask him to be something he's not, but I do think that you can uptick it a little bit more. I do think it's adequate. I think that's part of the reason why we're so good in the second half of football games on third down, getting off the field. He said, I found the Atlanta game. Rob 350 said, I'm just excited to be in the playoffs. Didn't think we'd make it. Anything can happen. 100%. No, we should not re-sign Nelson. He's a good safety blanket, but like I said, it depends on the contract value. It depends on how much he wants. And I definitely think you can upgrade over Nelson. But I'll be honest with you, Nelson, let's be real. I want to put it into context. Steven Nelson and Darius Slay are probably the best combo at corner we've had in quite some time with Avonte Maddox in the slot. It's been a long time since we had guys that can compete with that. With that said, I still think you can upgrade over Steven Nelson. Crypto said Minshew is a 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. Hurts struggles to be a 1.5 to 1. Hurts is average at best. You're not going to convince me of any of this, man. You're using generic numbers. You're not looking at the context of when things are happening. Like being down big in games makes it easy to throw the ball because coverages back off and they go soft. Williams will be our next Josh Sweat. Both have Pro Bowl potential. We'll see. I don't know about that interior. I like Williams a lot. I think that he's a very good pass rusher, especially interior pass rusher. But I do think he's got some growth to go in certain aspects of the running game. He's got to be a little bit more able to withhold up on interior double teams. He gets driven out of his gaps assignments pretty easily. On single blocks, I have seen some growth from him to where he's winning and he's doing some pretty good things. But we'll have to see. I mean, I still think Williams is a way better fit in a one-gap system than a two-gap system, to be quite honest. But yes, he's one of the better, younger pieces we have on the defensive line. Some fans need to realize when the playoffs start, every team's record is 0-0. Anything can happen. It's true. Maddox really kicked some butt. I'm glad we re-signed him. Yeah, Avonte's been playing really well, man. I'm real happy with how good Avonte has been, to be quite honest. Maddox had a great game. He did. Hurts is better than Minshew at this point. Hurts is a playmaker. Yeah, I agree, Mariana. Like, you're not going to convince Crypto. It's just, I've already tried to talk to him about it. Like, I don't think Minshew is trash or anything, but at the same time, he doesn't have the same ceiling level. Like, you're never going to play Minshew over Hurts. There's no organization that's going to do it. There's a reason why Minshew has been, even though I still think he's better than a handful of guys that started on Sundays, there's a reason he's back up. LAFK said, do you think Hurts gets an extra year as the starting quarterback if they win a playoff game? I think he's going to get an extra year as a starter unless you can get a certain class of quarterback. And if the organization is willing to spend the draft capital, in my opinion, LAFK, he puts you in the playoffs. There's growth here. He's still got some things to work on. He's not a complete product yet, but I personally, I'm not making a trade for any of these guys because it's going to be costly. And it's not that, I'm not saying that he's better than Russell Wilson. He's certainly not better than Aaron Rodgers. He's certainly not in the same categories as some of these other guys. I even think Derek Carr is a better quarterback, to be quite honest. But in saying that, he's good enough. He's put you in the playoffs. If he wins a playoff game, he did something that a guy with really high elite level talent couldn't do in Philly. I'm not going to say his name because I don't feel like getting to that argument, but he didn't do it. I mean, I thought he had a chance to do it in 2019 it was 2020 playoffs, the 2019 season, but he got knocked out of that game. So if he wins a game, he's done something that a lot of other quarterbacks haven't done here. NFC East B says Goddard had a great game too. I counted 3 key blocks just off of TV. Yeah, Rob said, Crypto, let it go. At the end of the day, Hurts got us here. Exactly. Eagles Lifer said, all the talking heads need to eat crow. Let's go Eagles. Yeah, there was definitely some downplay. And look, I didn't, I knew the Eagles were better than a 4-win team. I never saw that. But I said, all right, they'll probably win 6 to 7 games. And then they signed Steven Nelson. I said, that's probably a game difference there. Just having adequate secondary play. So I'm going to say they'll win 7 to 8 games. But yeah, some of the predictions that were preseason where they were saying that they were only going to win 4 games, it was like, no, man. Like, they didn't understand the chaos that was around the Philadelphia Eagles organization last year. That's why we won 4 games. It was the chaos that surrounded the organization. So I knew we were better than that. That pass interference call on Maddox yesterday was total BS. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it was BS, Mariana, but they were inconsistent in the way they called the pass interference calls. Like, if you're going to be overly aggressive with the whistle on it, then you got to be across the board with it. And I felt like some guys got an opportunity to play a little bit more handsy, while other guys didn't get that same opportunity. It went against us in yesterday's game, and I think that's that's the problem with officiating at times, is that when it's not quite done evenly with people. It's not settled yet, Chaos. So we don't know who we're playing yet. If the season ended tonight, or if it's ended last night, basically we'd be playing the Rams. And I'm going to get into the Rams here in a little bit, although it's not guaranteed that's who we're going to play. Hurts clip number 2, quarterback second, 2:30-minute mark, third down. Hurts goes down, sacked. We punt it. Okay. What's your point, man? Like, Hurts over the last 3 games, 54 of 81, 67% completion rate, 709 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 rushing touchdowns, 101.3 passer rating. You put us in the playoffs, man. Stop. Last few weeks, I've been noticing Hurts placing the ball on receivers better, more often, and sometimes throwing with anticipation. What do you think, Coach? Richard, yeah, to an extent, I agree. His ball location has been better. But I think where he's progressed the most is reading the field. He's reading the field better. I think the anticipation part still has to improve. I still think there are times he's waiting for things to come open instead of throwing them open. But he's still young. It's still, it's still a part of his game that has to be strengthened. He's got to get a little better at that. And I think that seeing him play against really good competition it's going to matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to definitely matter. Oh, dizzle drizzle. As of now, we have the 14th and 18th pick from Miami being eliminated, depending on their last game, and other 2 picks between the 20 and 28th pick. Yeah, so somewhere between 14 and 18 for Miami, and then somewhere between 20 and 32 technically, depending on who wins the Super Bowl, right? So, I mean, we're in a good position here. We're in a good spot, and I'm hoping that the Miami pick turns it closer to 14, because being in the middle of the pack will give us a better class and a better opportunity to get the right guys in here, to get impactful players. And I do think we still need that, especially defensively, because there's a lot of our guys are getting up there in age and the contracts are getting expensive. But that's a discussion for another day. Right now, we got to play a football in Philly. Well, not in Philly, but what's up, guys? How you doing, Tante? How are you, sir? Mariana said that backside block Goddard made on the second Scott touchdown was a straight pancake block. Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, guys, though, were any of you guys a little concerned about the running game, though? Because the running game with Jordan Howard still clearly having an issue with that shoulder, he didn't look right to me. It didn't, you know what I'm saying? It didn't look quite as explosive, and I thought we clearly had to rely on Hurts a little bit in that game. And I think Hurts toughed it out and made some really good plays in the running game for us on those couple of those runs. I am a little concerned here because, Miles Sanders with that broken hand, I'm not too sure he's going to come back this year. I mean, I'm hoping, but I don't know that to be a fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. And I think that changes the nature of the running game if Hurts isn't 100% healthy and if Howard's not 100% healthy. And that could be a problem going in against better competition. Natiro says Hurts mid-range improved, but his deep ball is still inaccurate. That's pass to Smith was overthrown. Yeah, he's the best way I can describe what I see on film going on Natiro with his deep ball is he's trying too hard for placement. He's trying to place the ball too hard instead of just letting it rip. Trusting what you're seeing, trusting your arm strength, trusting what you can do, and ripping the football. And he's trying to put a little too much touch on the ball. And it's called, like, there was the one play where I think it was the Smith pass where he almost skied it. I mean, it was up. So yeah, he's got some improvements need to happen with the deep ball. I do agree with that still. He's still not there in terms of that deep ball throw. Mechanically, he's got to get better. Voldemort has been sent over the wall to freeze in the north. That's funny. That's funny, man. We won because of Heineke's mistakes, not because of Hurts' quarterback skills. No, we didn't. You're wrong. Why does Gannon take so long to blitz quarterbacks? It's the way he does his scheme, LAFK. I mean, you can see it with Minnesota's scheme. You can see it to an extent with Indianapolis. They're not, not every, he's in a scheme where they're a little bit more passive in the way that they play. And, I think a lot of us aren't huge fans of it, but at the same time, like, what can you do about it? It is what it is. He's trying to create unique ways of doing things. I think he's gotten better at using stunts along the line. And that's something that Eberfloss does in Indianapolis that I don't see a ton of Zimmer doing. and it's why Zimmer's scheme to me gets a little boring at times. But he has played a little bit more from stunts and doing things like that on the line, which is more of an Eberflus influence. And I like to see that going forward. There's a reason why Eberflus turns quarterbacks over. And I think he needs to lean a little bit more towards Eberflus and a little less towards Zimmer, to be personally, to be quite honest about it. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. We won 4 games last year because the entire team was injured. We are healthier this year. No lazy Doug, training camps anymore. Let's see, man. Demetrius, what's up, buddy? He said, what are your keys to victory in the playoffs, regardless of who we play? We got to be a little bit more aggressive in the defensive side of things, in my opinion. Look, you're going to play better quarterbacks, and they're going to beat you a little bit. So we're going to have to score points. It doesn't matter who the defense is out there. Like, I don't think that we have enough impact to really dominate a team like that. But I do think that if we can do some things and play a little aggressive, maybe we can force a mistake, and you can let a guy like Darius Slay, and you can let these safeties out there maybe take a shot at taking the ball away. Because I think when you get into these better teams, it's about possessions, right? Because those guys are going to score at least probably half of their possessions, if not more. So if you can stop them in a few key possessions and keep scoring yourself, control the clock, control time of possession, establish the running game, I think you got a shot there. Because then you're just looking for that one impactful key play during a key moment of the game to beat teams like that. Let's root for Miami and Indy to lose. Yeah, you're right, NFC East Beast. That's what we need because, no offense to Carson, but we hold their pick right now. So, yeah, it'd be advantageous for us for them to drop the game and drop themselves out of the playoffs. Absolutely, I agree. Messiah said, did Hurts play good yesterday? I could not watch. He played really well in the first half. There's still some issues with that deep ball, to be quite honest, Messiah. His mid-range game is getting a lot better, and he was really gutsy, man. He really gutted it out in terms of the running game. There was a report that he went to Nick Sirianni, and he told Nick Sirianni, don't shy away from using them. That, hey, man, this is to clinch the playoffs. Guys got to put their bodies on the line, basically, and he toughed it out. So, definitely got to still work on the deep ball. There's still some issues with that deep ball, to be quite honest. But his mid-range game is getting really, really well. Kind of, Tiro was talking about that. Like the mid-range game is starting to really develop with him. Mariana said, they said Miles may be back. He may play with a split. He tore a ligament in his finger. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure, Mariana. Like I said, I mean, I hope he comes back. I definitely hope he comes back, but I'm not too sure whether or not he will or won't. And I see you posted it here. I'll just go to this one, Marky Mac. He said, Hurts got the Eagles to the playoffs in his second year while missing an ex-receiver. Plus, he has continued to show improvement. I don't know or understand the hate. Yeah, people are people, man. You know how it is, Marky Mac. Occupant's Razor said a win is a win. A lot of this team needs to work on. Yeah, a lot of this team needs to work. Exactly. I mean, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said it in the post game yesterday. I think it might have been I can't remember who it was, but somebody said it in the post game yesterday, and I thought it was a really interesting take because they're right from a coaching perspective. These are the games you love. You win the game. It's a gutsy win, but there's a lot of imperfections to work upon. So there's a lot of teachable moments here. It's what coaches. It makes the coach's job easy because you can't rest on your laurels on this one. And the team knows that. They know that they weren't good enough to beat other teams yesterday. They know that. They definitely know that. We'll see how they react, guys. The slow starts be killing us. We can't do that against the good teams. I agree, Mariana, and there's some things that people don't know about. Like we've scored 0 points in the first quarter in the last 3 games. We do need to start faster. And I'll say this: it's not like we haven't had opportunities to put up points, but we've been basically forsaken field goals just to try to push the ball into the end zone, and that's taking points off the board. Maybe we should play, especially get to the better teams. You shouldn't forsake points unless, down in distance mattering. If you're in the red zone, I get it, but we're not in the red zone. If you're in the goal line, I get it. But I do think there are times when you need points. Points will matter. Matero says, I'm not a fan of Gannon, but he deserves another year with the right guys for his scheme. I feel the same way, that I'm not 100% sold on him per se, Matero, but I also recognize the fact that I don't know that he necessarily has the fits for the scheme he wants to run either. I'm just frustrated that maybe he hasn't necessarily played completely to the strengths of the guys that are on the roster. But I get it. Not every coach does it that way. Not every coach plays exactly Some guys have their scheme and they're going to run their scheme. I think he's given and bent a little bit, but I would have liked to have seen more. MC East B says, bend but don't break defenses. The NFL today, you're not allowed to blow guys up anymore. You're kind of right. Appreciate you. Dante says, man, hit that like button. Sorry if this question was already asked, but who do you prefer to be our opponent? Dallas has been a bad match for us the last 2 years. Yeah, but Dallas is slumping right now. Look, I don't know. I mean, look, we're the 7th seed right now for a reason. I do think we're talented enough to be the 6th seed, but we're at the bottom of the playoffs for a reason. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping we can get the running game healthy. I'm hoping we can get some of our guys back, and then we'll see where it takes us. I still, like I said, I think Gannon in the second half of these games has done a really good job adjusting and has done some really positive things, but you're always holding your breath a little bit. Even in yesterday's game, they drove the ball and we got too passive, and he did that right before the half too, where he got entirely too passive, and they were just going to go in half. And then they saw how passive Gannon was being. So then they were like, well, if he's going to give us first downs and put us in the position to score points, that's what we're going to do. So, I mean, I definitely still think there's things to work on. So I don't know in terms of the matchup basis. I guess it depends on how you look at it. I mean, we're going to get into some of this as we start clearing it out a little bit, but I do think the Rams have a lot of talent, but I will say this, the Rams have OBJ. He's a veteran. He can win. There's no doubt about it, but their offense is Cooper Kupp. So it might be one of those things where if you can figure out a way of limiting Cooper Kupp, you're not going to stop him. You can limit his production a little bit. Maybe you can stand a chance against a team like that. You look at Green Bay, it's Devontae Adams, but I do think that their complementary pieces are better than people think. I think that, some of those guys can play actually out there, and they're just not their names aren't as big as Devontae Adams because of how good Devontae Adams is. But yeah, I mean, all these matchups are going to be tough against the top 4 teams. I like that, Mariana. She said, McLeod is good at blitzes. We should use him closer to the line of scrimmage more often. Yeah, he's been recently they've been using Anthony Harris more so in the box, McLeod a little bit more as the free. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. He's always kind of been that way where he's had the ability to rock down into the box. I noticed that a couple of years ago with him that he could do that. But I just think that, when you had Malcolm Jenkins, like Jenkins was clearly going to be your box safety, and clearly McLeod would be your deep safety. But yeah, I mean, with those guys and with Epps, you could probably play around a little bit more with who you're going to rock into the box. Occam's Razor said, it is hard to tell if there is improvement only because of the quality of their opponents. They are getting better. A mid-ranked pass defense would have picked Hurts 2 to 3 times in quarters 3 and 4, overthrows and underthrows to Smith and Goddard. I disagree with you, but I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. It's wrong, but you're still allowed to have it. Slow starts are maddening. LAFK says, who is the negative? Jane, go back to doing crypto. Leave ball to the big boys. Jeff said, I feel bad for Devontae Smith. With better play calling and a better passing quarterback, he could have been offensive rookie of the year. Well, I mean, they were trying to get the ball into him early. I don't necessarily think it's because of – I think it's the style of the offense, Jeff. I disagree with that a little bit. Definitely Jalen's quarterback play at times has affected him, but even when they brought in Minshew, it wasn't like he was getting the football. I think the identity changed. And when the identity changed, it affected how much of his targets he was receiving. It affected his target rates. So I think it has a lot to do with it. Hurts numbers, 19 starts, a little over 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Philly halftime said, I seen something funny. ESPN said the Eagles are going to trade for Kirk Cousins for a first-round pick. I hope not. I think Kirk Cousins is better than people think, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not giving up a first-round pick for Kirk Cousins, and I just, I don't know, man. Guys, he doesn't look like a Super Bowl winning quarterback to me, but sometimes dudes flash later in their careers. It's hard to say. But if I had a choice out of those mid-tier guys and just take the Eagles out of the equation, guys, if I'm a franchise and I'm looking for a quarterback and I had a chance at the mid-tier guys, the Garoppolos and the Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, I'm probably giving up first round picks for Derek Carr. I'm not going to probably give that for Kirk Cousins personally. What's up, Shonuff? How you doing? Try and take out the quarterback sneaks, touchdowns, and numbers look lame. That's crypto, though. That's a bogus argument you're trying to make. They still count. It's still an aspect of what that guy can do from the position. That's like saying take away the offensive line. Like, yeah, sure. Okay. We saw what it did to Patrick Mahomes, but the offensive line is still part of the equation. The protection is still a part of the equation. How the guy processes pressure is still part of the equation. You can't, like, I'm sorry, man. Like, you're creating these weird scenarios that I don't agree with what you're trying to do. Occam Razor said, I can't take away a tool from his tool. Exactly. That's a bogus take, man. Take away Mahomes passing and he is lame. If you had to bet your money, does Devontae break Deshaun's record this week or even crazier hit 1,000? I know you saw that game Jamar Chase just had. Yeah, Jamar's balling out, Demetrius. Jamar's a really good football player. I would say that there's a 50-50 chance. I mean, it depends on how – number one, I don't even know if they're going to play him. That's really the bigger problem here is are they even going to play him? How much of these guys are they going to rest? And even if they do play him, how long is he going to maintain in the game? Like, are they going to go hard after that, you know what I'm saying, that 6th seed? And are they going to really go after it here? Or are they going to try to get more of the rest on their guys, try to work things out scheme-wise for who their opponent might be? I don't know, man. Every organization and every coach takes things a little differently. So it's really hard to say. So I'm not really sure, Demetrius. But that's definitely an interesting question because of the aspect of it, right? I don't even know how much he's going to play. Dallas slumps every December. It's kind of true, unfortunately, for them. Fortunately for us. Good morning, Steve. Eagles had still have a lot of growing to do, but pretty happy that we're considering how the season started. Sorry, RGR. That was like me stuttering for 3 minutes there. My bad, man. I agree. There's still a lot of growth that needs to occur on this football team. But this team, at the end of the day, was good enough to push itself into the playoffs. And, you play the competition that's before you. It was a great on-tape game. I'm liking what I saw from Hurts. This is a development offense. Just think Dallas in 2016. It's all learning, developing pains. Just look at last year's offense and O-line. Yeah, I agree. There's an aspect of that that's very much true, Dante Hill. Absolutely. Natiro said, we are either only good in the first half, Broncos and Saints, or good only in the second half. That's true. And I think some of that has to do with the approach to the game. Like I said, I think some of this, Natiro, honestly might have to do with, the 13 days in which you're playing opponents. You got 2 games in that time frame, which messes things up. Then you were coming off the bye week on top of that. Your game got pushed back. And then you had to play those 2 games. And, I can't remember. It was Tuesday to Sunday, so you had very little time in between. But, to be fair, Sunday and Thursday games have that same kind of element. But I think all that kind of combined together, you're dealing with rookie play callers. I know Sirianni has a little bit more experience handling play calls than what we have on the defensive side of the ball with Gannon because, Gannon was a secondary coach. I'm sure he contributed to the game plan, but I'm not too sure how much he had to do with actual game calls. I've never heard that discussed about him. But we know at least Sirianni was somewhat involved in the Frank Reich system of coaching and how he calls plays and calls games. We can see that influence is there with him. So I'm not too sure, but you get what I'm saying. We're dealing with those aspects too, coming off of those things. Chaos said Gannon needs to adjust in the first half. Don't just wait till the second half against those good teams in the playoffs because we will lose. Yeah, I definitely think that the deck is stacked against us, but I'm just hoping we get the running game going. I hope Gannon has learned some lessons against these better quarterbacks and that, he can play adequate. I don't expect us to keep, some of these guys under 20 points. I just think that's an unrealistic expectation. That's really hard to do against good offenses. No matter how good your defense is, that becomes incredibly difficult against better competition, obviously. Philly Halftime says, I do not like Gannon, but when your defense is stopping teams at 16 or less, that's a good defense. Yeah, I agree, Philly Halftime. it's maddening because there's clearly elements of the defense that has to be improved upon, and there's clearly teams that could take advantage of some of the stuff that's going on out there if we're not careful. But at the same time, you play who's in front of you, and when you look at the numbers and the raw data, what he did to teams, hey, I mean, it's worked. It's definitely worked. It's just we got to see if that's going to work against better competition, and that's where I'm a little more hesitant. He's got to show me a little more there. But this is a big opportunity in 2 weeks. He's going to play somebody that can put up points. He's going to have an opportunity to prove that he can keep you in a game and win a game. If McLeod didn't catch that and Washington scored, we would be all killing Gannon now. That's true. It's very true. It's kind of the frustrating thing about an interior, right? Because it's very circumstantial, right? To where we came away with an interception, but it also kind of plays into Gannon's point, which is the longer you make a team drive the ball down the field, the more likely somebody is to make a mistake, a false start. Something might happen that's going to throw them off if you just take away the deep shots. So it's maddening because it falls into both sides of things, and it's frustrating because I'm not a big fan of that very passive style of play either, to be quite honest. It bothers me as well, but I'm also acknowledging that against lesser talent, it has certainly worked. Dante said, we can win against anyone with our run game, but you don't know who will be available when game time's due to the state of the world. Dante, that's a good point. And plus, we're beat up a little bit in the running game. And I really look, Boston did good when he got around the goal line. It was both fourth down calls, but he put the ball in the end zone. With that said, we were not as dynamic in the running game, with Jordan Howard being a little beat up still, and with Miles Sanders being absent. I think if Jordan Howard's healthy with Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, you get, Jalen Hurts back to 90-95% of his mobility with that ankle again. You got something. It's going to be hard to shut down that running game. But I would definitely rest Howard. I wouldn't play Howard this upcoming week. I would rest Howard. If I was the Eagles, I would give him time to try to heal that shoulder. I think it's in the shoulder neck area. I don't know exactly where it is, but I think it's somewhere between the shoulder and neck is where the stinger occurred. Ackman's Razor said 24 rushing touchdowns for the Eagles, their most since 1949. Yes, team has been really good. This team's been really good in certain aspects of the game. McLeod is a box safety. At this point in his career, it feels like it, right? Shonuff said, I don't completely dislike Gannon's defense because when he's on, you won't score over 13 to 14 points. He just needs to incorporate more versatility in his scheme. If he does that, it could be dangerous. Exactly. I'm not going to ask him to be something he's not. He's not Buddy Ryan. He's not, he's just not that style of defense, guys. He's not going to come out with these heavy, he's certainly not Jim Johnson. He's not going to play aggressive like that. Jim Johnson was the ultimate aggressor. He's not that style of guy, so I'm not going to ask him to be that guy, but I would like to see a little more versatility. We've seen some things like he's been willing to change up and shake up the linebacker core, and that's played to our favor. And we've seen him start using more stunts and twists, using some more of that Eberflus influence that he's picked up in his, his time coaching it. And that, at times it's worked. I do think we still need more consistent pass rush, though, Shonuff. And I would definitely either spend money in free agency, or I would definitely spend some of our draft capital to get some guys that potentially could improve this pass rush, because I do think that overall it needs to be improved. What does it matter if Devontae gets those numbers? He's on a winning team. I just like someone put out a tweet, Try Vegas, where they were talking about Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor, and they were like, well, finally Jalen Rager's going to have some ammunition when someone comes at him and says, you're like 2,000 yards short and like 200 catches short of Justin Jefferson, and he's going to be able to be saying, yeah, but I got more playoff catches. LAFK said, do you think Rodney McLeod gets brought back? I don't know. I mean, he is coming back from an ACL, so as time goes on and he gets a little healthier, you can make the claim that maybe he does improve as time goes on. He gets a little bit more healthier with the leg and stuff. Like I could see that, LAF, okay, to be quite honest. I did change my projections. We did that Saturday live stream where we talked about free agency. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It was an hour and a half. It was Allie and myself. We talked about free agents, and I said that you guys kind of convinced me that I was spending my money on Steven Nelson in the scenario we set up, but you guys had kind of convinced me to maybe go with Rodney McLeod and bring in Rodney McLeod back. Yeah, I'm not Caleb. I mean, I think Kirk Cousins is underrated for what he is. I think he's a better arm than people think. I'm not overly enthused about that, but I would certainly take Kirk Cousins. If I'm an organization and I need a quarterback, I would certainly take Kirk Cousins before I took Jimmy Garoppolo. Caleb said, guys, Jalen Hurts is a young, cheap pro baller that took us to the playoffs. Be real. And it's only really one person, Caleb, that has the doubts about it. Cujo and Friend says, very impressed with Hurts of lately. Y'all remember he is still pretty – I wouldn't say he's a rookie, Cujo, but he's in a weird place between not being really a rookie, but at the same time he's not experienced. He's in this weird in-between area of things. Because I can't really say he's a sophomore, but like to me, once you've had time in the league, you can't claim rookie anymore because there is some value that comes from being in the film room, being around and seeing those things. So you're not really a rookie, but he's certainly not experienced, and people need to allow his experience to catch up. Now, look, if you had a Super Bowl winning roster and you're dealing with a guy that's still maybe a year or two away from developing into something that you can fully analyze and see whether or not that's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, I could understand wanting to go for those guys. We don't have a roster for that, in my opinion. I still think that like your best move is to save your picks, try to let Jalen develop, and then build your roster around him. Worst case scenario, you can go get that guy later. You can try at least. I mean, it's hard to get those guys, to be quite honest, but you could try. I would give Jalen an opportunity. I would give him definitely next year. We should want Brady or the Cowboys. Prophet said, would you bring back Jonathan Gannon if we have any playoff success? He's coming back anyways, to be honest, Prophet. They're not going to fire Jonathan Gannon based off of this season alone. I can tell you. They're going to give him a chance to at least put his guys in the system. I would like to see Jonathan Gannon alter his scheme a little bit. I'm not asking for him to become something he's not. He's not going to be Jim Johnson. He's never going to be an aggressive play caller like that. But I do think the way that we talk about Jalen Hurts, and we say, Jalen Hurts is inexperienced. You got to give the guy time to see and develop. The way we talk about Nick Sirianni, we say, look, Nick Sirianni has been a part of play calling, but he's never been the play caller. Jonathan Gannon, it's even more extreme as I understand it, because I don't even know if he's ever been a part of the process of play calling, but he's been there for building the game plan. He's played a role in building game plans. So, he's got to grow in that respect as well. You know what I mean? So I don't think they're going to move on from Gannon yet, to be quite honest. Now, if you have a couple of years of this type of thing to where better quarterbacks are just slicing you up, I think it might get a little dicey, because I do think that our front office at times, and we learned this with Doug, our front office at times can be a little reactionary. They wanted to fire Frank Reich after the first season. So you got to be careful. You know what I mean? I never want to project anything with the front office, but it seems like he's probably back next year to me. Unless he gets a head coaching gig from like the Vikings or something, which I think is improbable. It's probably not going to happen, but he'll probably get an interview. Occam said, seems like it is the Bucs, so just rest the starters. Right now it would be the Rams, actually. Kirk Cousins is great, just playing into how much he would cost and losing picks for what? Jalen is shown has shown at 23. My bad, Caleb. His price is worth it, basically. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary to go trade picks for a quarterback right now. I honestly think that would be a mistake. Build the roster around the team you have right now would be how I would approach things. I would build the roster around the team you have right now. If you were a contending team, like a true contending team, or you had Super Bowl aspirations and you knew you had a window of opportunity for a Super Bowl, I think it's a different discussion. But like where we're at right now, I just think it would be absurd to do that. Occam said this Bucs team is the one you want to play. They are beat up. All right, Crypto. Like, dude, you're taking things out of the context, though, here. Number one, like I said, over the last 3 games, in which you said that he wouldn't be able to win, Crypto, I remember what you said. And I told you I doubt that perspective, and I was right. He's been 54 of 81, which is a 67% completion rate, 709 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns, so 5 touchdowns over that 3-game span, and 101.3 passer rating. Down the stretch, since he sat that game with the injury, he's been quite good. He's got areas of his development that has to keep occurring. He's not throwing the ball with great anticipation yet. That has to develop. His deep ball needs work. There's no doubt about it. But if you can't see how much this young man has improved over the middle of the field and throwing mid-developing routes, and the fact that he is far more willing to take checkdowns now than he was earlier on in the season, then you're not looking at the game. You're just hating on the player. I was not strong on Jalen Hurts to begin the season. I had my own doubts, but I also know that quarterbacks develop and you got to judge the product, not use just generic stats. Like, okay, cool. He threw 16 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, 800 yards rushing. RJ3 didn't sustain. RJ3, there's different circumstances there, man. Harrison McLeod have to go. You can tell the linebackers and the corners don't trust him. Great game by Josh Sweat yesterday. 5 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Yeah, he came on. He definitely came on. T. Lewis said the excuse that Gannon doesn't have players to fit a scheme is why he plays passive is annoying. You have to adjust to your players, right? But you all, I think that his argument is T. Lewis. He is adjusting to his players and their limitations, right? He has to. He was slow to give up on 2 safety looks and how prevalent it was in our defense. Playing those quarters and playing that cover 2 concept because of Steven Nelson's limitations. You have to rock a safety. It's not really rock safety, that means in the box, but you have to lean a safety over to his side because of his limitations. Like, it took him, I do agree there are aspects at times where it took him too long to make adjustments, like the linebackers. He should have been playing Davion faster than he made that decision to play him. Fortunately, Davion got hurt. TJ Edwards should have been put into the game faster than he was being played in games. I do agree with that aspect of things, right? Some of the adjustments we made in terms of bringing in pressure and using stunts and twists and movements like that. Yes, I agree with that. But we also got to understand you're dealing with a guy who's never called plays before. There's a lot of talent. The guy has a good football mind, but it's like any job. You're going to have to feel your way out a little bit. And I definitely think he's in that stage of feeling his way out. Philly halftime says we need another wide receiver. We do. We definitely need another wide receiver. Gannon's defense is so frustrating. On one hand, this is the NFL talent on not so good teams. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, man. Philly fan D said, appreciate you, Steven. Love the 9 a.m. chats. Hey, guys, I'm Monday through Thursday. I can guarantee you I'll be here at 9 o'clock for y'all. Watching religiously since 1987. Couldn't be happier for this team. I see great things with the coaching staff, and Hurts as our guy. Me too. I think that we're starting to click a little bit. Things are starting to kind of come together. Like I said, we still got areas of this team that need to be improved upon. But I'm glad at the basic structure we see here. Look, guys, I was happy whether we made the playoffs or not with just the way that the team had progressed. We had found an identity. We have done those things. Like, I was happy with that. Like, I was okay with what we had achieved. What I will say is this, like, you keep building upon that. Now you see that, okay, like now we can build upon what we've discovered. And now we have the opportunity to see this team one last time against better competition, right? And I think that's important to get one last look against better competition to see Sirianni, see Jalen Hurts, see, what's going on with Jonathan Gannon one last time against that higher end quality opponents to see, okay, scheme wise, what needs to happen, player wise, what needs to happen from, all those things. Like, I think it's important. I think we played ourselves into being able to do this. Yes, play Jason Huntley and carry on Johnson in Dallas game, rest Scott and Howard. I would too, personally. Ruben, man, look, I would stay away from Antonio Brown, man. Something's not right there, Ruben. I'd stay away from him. Something ain't right, man. Is he better than what we got? Yeah, man. There is no doubt about that. But man, I'd have to stay away from him because his level of crazy is a whole different level. You know what I mean? Like something's going on there, and I hope the young man's okay. But it's definitely scary. Jeremiah Butler with the $4.99 super chat, man. I appreciate you, bro. Says, don't know if you addressed this because I'm just tuning in, but start/sit starters in week 18. I say off we do only for a half. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, Jeremiah. I said that it really just kind of depends on what the goals of the organization are. Are they going to try to get the 6th seed or not? Or are they just going to try to rest their guys and be ready for that playoff game and say, it really doesn't matter for the 7th or the 6th seed. We're going to play on the road. the whole way through, anyways. And we're one of the better road teams. We're one of the better road teams in the NFL. So, you know what I mean? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what they do, guys. It's hard to say. Steve, Joey said Hurts is not a good passer. Philly 500 says we have two backup quarterbacks. It's not just me. I didn't say it was necessarily just you. I said it's just you in the chat saying that. And with all due respect to Joey Shakes and Philly 500, I've played the position, I've coached it, and I've run camps. I got way more knowledge than they do. You can talk to them and they'll tell you the same thing. We got to start faster. We will lose the first game if we start slow like we've been. Yeah, Chris, I agree that we need to put points up. I think we're starting faster than people think. I just don't think we're converting it into points, and that's a problem. 0 points scored in the first quarter in the last 3 games. There has to be an adjustment there. I agree. Jalen Hurts has me almost there, but I'm not ready to say he's a franchise quarterback yet. I don't think he's worth the 38 to 40 million a year. Yeah, I'm not saying that Jalen is or is not that Philly halftime. I'm saying that there's been growth from this young man this season. And, me personally, I'm not going to give away multiple first round picks. I'm going to build a roster around Jalen, give him another year or so to see what I got there. And then I'll readjust it and I'll make that decision when I see a better roster around him. If I still feel like, okay, like his limitations are going to hold us back, that's a different story. But I would give this young man another year of time in the offseason to work, time to see defenses, see where he's at, and then you kind of make that decision. And you still have Minshew here to compete. You don't have to necessarily say anything. You can just say, like, Jalen Hurts is the starter, but there will be competition, and you can let it play out. I mean, Jalen should win that competition. He should be your quarterback in 2022. And if he keeps progressing and keeps moving, you might have something going forward. But yes, I mean, anytime you have a guy that doesn't give you the 5th-year option, I agree, Philly halftime. It's really difficult on the contract negotiations, right? That's part of what hit them with Kirk Cousins in Washington. It's part of what hit them with Dak in Dallas, is that not having that 5th-year option, even though the 5th-year options are really expensive. They're not quite those level contract numbers that you pay when that next guy's due up. So it gives you another year of evaluation, and I think that's what makes non-first-round quarterbacks particularly difficult contractually to evaluate. And it's that's always going to be kind of tough there. Gannon's defense situation is awkward on one hand. These are yeah, I hear you, man. Definitely. The Eagles need to sign Antonio Brown. Crypto, stop spraying. It's funny. I mean, look, I like crypto, man. Crypto's been here on this channel for a long time, supporting it. I know how he feels about Jalen Hurts. I just disagree with him. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is a franchise guy yet. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he's developed. He looks better. I mean, the guy that he was at the beginning of the season to the guy he is, that we just saw playing Week 17, is a different quarterback. He's developed. He's gotten better. He's got things to work on, sure, but I don't think he's as bad as some of these people think. I think they might be underestimating how important his mobility is, and the fact that you can win with guys that have mobility. Yes, he's going to have to get better at playing inside the pocket. We know that, but he's been better at reading coverage. That explanation he gave last week, guys, was eye-opening, okay? He understood what he was seeing, and that's important. It's really, really important. He understands what's going on out there. Now, throwing the ball with anticipation, throwing guys open instead of waiting for plays to break open, yes, he's got to get better. That deep ball, it's got to get better. We all agree there. But I'm just not ready to move on from him based upon those things. Like, if we did that, man, you're going to be in a constant tailspin of chasing your tail for a quarterback. Unless you can go get Aaron Rodgers or someone like that. Sure, if those guys want to leave, and we're assuming they want to leave, we don't know where Aaron Rodgers is going to be postseason yet in terms of like if he wants to stay or go yet. So, I mean, we don't even know if those dudes are available. It's an assumption, right? So, I mean, I just feel like you can get yourself into a tailspin chasing quarterbacks if you keep doing that. I'm curious, Kate, would you play starters versus Dallas or backups? Me personally, I would probably rest my guys. I mean, I might go out there and maybe try to, you could do the coach thing We used to do this too, where you play them for the first quarters. It's almost like a preseason game, so you try to keep them in rhythm and keep them established into the game, and then you get them out of there. But like, I don't want to risk injury. I personally, I would sit them. I think that we need this team to heal up. Um, you know what I mean? I would sit them. I would treat it like you got a first round bye. Treat it like a first round bye. Just sit them. I don't like losing to Dallas, and I don't want to lose to Dallas on a technicality because maybe they play their starters and we play our backups. I hate that aspect, but it is what it is. Caleb said the Super Bowl window is there with the picks we have and the cap space and the O line for sure coming back. We should be Super Bowl contenders. The hardest thing that we will have to address is the wide receiver two position. I think there's a couple spots. I do think that we got to get better in terms of the pass rush. Derek Barnett may or may not be back. Probably leaning towards he's probably not going to be back. To be quite honest, this may be Fletch's last year. I mean, you always got to leave the door open a little bit, but Fletch's contract kind of flips around after this year to where he's on the other side of things, to where you can separate from the contract. Brandon Graham is 34 years old starting next year by next year's season. So I mean, like from the pass rush perspective, we do have some things to fill out. Darius Slay's over 30. Your safety situation, you know what I mean? Like there are some issues there in terms of the long term future. But yes, I think we're in a good spot. Is if you keep those picks, you're in a good spot. That's what I'm saying. I would keep the picks, man. I hear you, Ruben. I understand that's your perspective, buddy. But I'm not touching that dude, man. Why would you sign a guy that took his jersey off, threw it into the stands, and walked out on his team? No, thank you. No, thank you. I can't trust you. No, thank you. He's not the best player if he's not physically in the room. He's not physically on the field. He's been progressing. That's all we ask for. People continuously leave out. He's also once again learning a new offense. He is. He's kind of remarkable how many offenses he's had to deal with in terms of offensive coordinators. Caleb said that's why we must draft a corner first round, a big time guy, then a go defensive end, or try to trade for a Khalil Mack or something. I like that idea, Caleb. I mean, Khalil Mack, I'm a little concerned about the contract value, but an impact pass rusher, I get what you're saying. Like, what you look, I mean, there's definitely those guys. Hassan Riddick can be an impact pass rusher. Michael Parsons has proven to be an impact pass rusher. I know that's bad juju words here in Philly, but it's just truthful. There's definitely those guys that have that rush edge to them. Khalil Mack used to be unstoppable at one point in his career. I don't know where he is physically anymore. I'd have to see, and I need to look at his film from the last couple of years, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. You want that impact player. You want somebody that when it's third and long, teams are like, oh crap, they're coming. Beachhead said, I like what Quiz is growing into. I do too. I think he's starting to develop quite nicely. I mean, it's a 6th-round pick. I mean, talk about a guy that, whew, they got right. They definitely got that guy right. There's no doubt about it. Why is our run defense not as stout? Every short yardage situation, we can't stop it. Schwartz was exceptional at short yardage situation. Tito, from what I remember from Schwartz, is he oversold out on it. I do think our run defense has been a lot better. I think it's made drastic improvements from the early season to where we couldn't stop anybody. It was just straight pitiful. But yeah, I mean, like it's difficult, and we don't really, one thing that you normally see on short yardage situations like that, you see them go bare front. So bare front, normally what that just means is, you have the 52, but bare front just normally means when you have both the guards in the center covered. And I don't know that that Gannon's system is as willing as Schwartz's system to do that. What if Gannon does have the players? Maybe his scheme doesn't work. I mean, we'll see, Shogun. I mean, you still got to give him his opportunity. I don't think he has the players for that system, to be quite honest. He just doesn't. But I'm not saying his system is ultimately going to work, but you got to give him an opportunity to get his guys to see it. And it has worked in certain elements, right? I mean, it's worked against certain guys. It's a matter of, can it work to an extent against, the Bradys? Can it work against the Rodgers? Can it work against, the Russell Wilsons? Can it work against, the better quarterbacks in the league? That's where, we have to see things kind of shake out, that Patrick Mahomes is. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. And mind you, working against those guys is a different story, right? You keep those guys under 30, you did your job as a defensive coordinator. Those guys are really hard to shut down. You get under 30, you gave your team a legitimate shot at winning a football game against that level of competition. So, I mean, I also think that we have to kind of define what we mean by work when you say that. Positive growth is all we can ask for as fans. 100% agree. I know the numbers otherwise, but the eye test says something different. It depends on where you're looking at it, though, Tito, because I do think the eye test does match up depending on where you're looking and how you're viewing the data. So in the second half of games, to where we're actually, if you're looking at the adjustments that Gannon makes, second half of games, you see the third down. You see where we're getting teams off third down, like we're getting off the field, we're getting our offense back on the field. So I mean, it just depends on how you're looking at it. Early in the games, I do think that there's something to be said the fact that we had to play so many games hunched up. We came off the bye week, had the game pressed, then we had that game bunch. Then we had, one guy changing at offensive coordinator right before we played them. Then you have, a situation to where you got quarterbacks you're not familiar with. So you don't know, they're going to change their scheme a little bit. So I think it took them to see, okay, this is what they're doing. This is what needs to be done in terms of the adjustment to fix this. And then he adjusts and he shuts it down. I think the argument to be here, Tito, is that faster, adjust faster. Tasha, appreciate that. She said, I'm glad the Eagles made the playoffs. Me too. Lame Fame TV said, do you think they won't rest? I don't know, Lame. To me, it depends upon how the organization views the opportunity to clinch the 6th seed, to take the 6th seed and not just the 7th seed. I don't know if they're going to play for matchup, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if they're going to view this and say, we're better off playing this team. So if we can get that 6th seed, we put ourselves in position to do that, then we're going to go for it. Me personally, I would rest my guys. I would rest my guys. I mean, I think you're going to be on the road no matter what. The 7th seed and the 6th seed does not change that you'd be on the road. I think it's different if you had a shot to become the 4th seed, so you do get a home game, at least one home game, right? I think that's a little different, but you're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not the scenario. So it doesn't really change that much for us. Like, if you're the 6th seed, you play the 3rd seed, right? If you're the 7th seed, you're going to play the 2nd seed, but you're playing on the road the entire time. My guy Philly Mike coming in here with the $1.99 super chat. Appreciate you, Mike. He said Hurts and Sirianni got better, and they not done. I hope that they do something in the playoffs, Mike. I definitely do, man, because I think that would completely change everything. My guy Dante coming in with the $2 super chat and said, leave a like. I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you all so much. And then my guy Jeremiah coming in with the big money, $9.99, said, not saying AB don't have issues, but it's easy to create the crazy narrative given his history. I want to know the context of the situation, because if the organization tried to stiff the man, that's a different conversation. I don't know what went on there, Jeremiah, but no matter what happened, I can't excuse walking out on your teammates. You know what I mean? Like, your business with the organization is one thing, and I don't blame him if he wants out of the organization because of the way they treated him, or because of maybe their negotiations, or what may or may not have occurred. Maybe somebody said something that was sideways. I don't know, Jeremiah, but you shouldn't walk out on your teammates. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's more so this fact that you walked out on your guys. And to me, like, you just don't touch that guy. Like, because that there's a point he can get to where he'll walk off on his teams. And that always messes with me a little bit. All right, guys, I'm going to grab a couple of you guys I haven't seen comment yet, and then I'm going to get into another conversation, okay? Just real quick, I want to bring up who we're matched up against currently and what's going on here. Thayon Wall Sr., I appreciate you commenting, buddy. He said, we've been good on the road all year, so I think we're going to upset somebody. We have been good on the road. You're right. We've definitely been good on the road. What's up, Maria DeBooth? I'm happy to have you here. She said, might be Rush versus Minshew. Might be. You might be right. It could be the backup bowl. Could be the backup bowl. No doubt about it. The coach, Philly Al. What's up, man? Appreciate you tuning in. He said, Gates, how do you feel about Nakobe Dean, the linebacker? I like him. I think that we could use a somewhat higher pick at linebacker this year. I don't know they're going to go first round, just because we haven't done that since like 79. But we'll see. I mean, Those things are made to be broken eventually. Glizzy came in and said, feels good to be back in the mix, Gate. Yes, it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. Fireman 2531. What's good, guys? Sorry, I'm just trying to grab some people that I haven't had a chance to pull up comments on the screen. Philly Mike. What's good, buddy? How you doing, Mike? Mad Hatter. What's up, man? How you doing, buddy? Said I'd like to get a defensive end, cornerback, and a linebacker in the draft. I think we could use all three of those position groups, if I'm going to be quite honest. Definitely. All right, guys. So I want to get into this point real fast. All right. So our current matchup, if things end it the way they end right now, all right, and mind you, that may or may not happen. Okay, we don't know who we're going to be ultimately matched up against. All right, Samuel Rowe, I'm sorry, buddy, I just saw you here. Said they threw him out. He didn't quit. Well, I don't know exactly what happened, Samuel. We'll have to see when the news comes down. Our current matchup is the LA Rams. So when I looked at the Rams, I wanted to look at, okay, like, who are their key players offensively, right? Because we've got to match up against this offense, and like, what's going on here? What I saw here is just a really definitive way that they break down their targets, and they break down their targets to the outside more than any other team. Okay, so wide receiver targets on the season, and this isn't even counting last week or this just yesterday. It's only counting up to week 16. Wide receiver targets 415, which accounts for 72.8% of all their targets. It's a very high number. Running back targets 69, which is 12.1% of their targets. So they don't really throw to the running backs very often. And then tight end targets 86, 15.1%. What I wanted to look at is like, okay, what class are they in? Like, what is the class of organization that has this type of structure to their targets? The only two teams that are even close to that, to be quite honest, are Buffalo and Cincinnati. They're in the high 60 range in terms of those target numbers, 67 and like above. So we know that they're probably running a crap ton of 11-man without me even going into their personnel grouping frequencies. I can tell you they're clearly running a lot of 11-man just because of how much of that targets are going to their wide receivers. So in comparison to Philadelphia, where's Philadelphia? How is Philadelphia distributing the ball, right? Wide receiver targets for Philly, right, is 220 targets, which is 50.9%, 51% to wide receivers. Running back targets, 98, just 22.7%. Tight end targets, 26.4, which is 114 targets so on the season. So Philly's almost 50-50 between wide receivers and then running backs and tight ends combined. So a little bit more diverse. Who are the teams that are in that category with Philadelphia, how they structure their offense? The Raiders, the Chargers, the Chiefs, all those teams are not quite to Philly. I think Philly's definitely a little bit more towards the middle than other teams are, but those guys are in that same realm of things. I wanted to look down going into the playoffs if this is our matchup. Over the last 3 games or so, how did the targets break down? And the one thing that's quite obvious is they target Cooper Kupp a lot. He's got 177 targets on the season, and that's not even counting what happened yesterday. So he's the most targeted receiver, and it's by a mile. He's been targeted a whole lot. That's why he's over 1,400 yards receiving. So actually, I think he's pretty much closing in pretty close to 2,000 yards receiving, if I'm being honest. He's had 10-plus targets in every game this year except for one game. Cooper Kupp has to be where you start when you start talking about shutting down the Rams. You got to start with Cooper Kupp. And I think there's a conversation in that Jalen Williams brought up in Saturday's live stream when we were talking. He said when you get to those level competition of guys like the Devontae Adams, when you get to the Cooper Kupps, how would you do that? Would you put Slay and mirror him with Slay, have Slay carry and travel with him? Or would you bracket the number 1 receiver and then have Slay take down the number 2 receiver? So that would be OBJ. Slay would be on OBJ, then you would bracket Cooper Kupp. Or would you just say, forget it. This side of the field, they're good offensively. You just got to play your game. I think it's an interesting conversation what you do between Cooper Kupp and OBJ. OBJ's targets, right? So 10, 5, 7, 3, and 8. OBJ and Van Jefferson, it's kind of funny because those two guys kind of go back and forth in terms of their targets. So Van Jefferson during that same period of time is 9, 8, 3, 2, and 6. And then you have Tyler Higbee, who averages about 5 to 6 targets a game. So you're going to get 5 or 6 targets a game for Tyler Higbee. you know you're going to get 10 plus, targets for Cooper Kupp. And then you're going to have at minimum, probably, I'd say anywhere between 6 to 8 targets to be allocated per person when it comes to Van Jefferson and OBJ. If that's your matchup, that's what you're facing in terms of the team. And how Gannon would approach that, what they're going to do. Are we going to see some things that'll be different? I think is an excellent conversation in terms of how the approach might be. Because do you want to take a guy like Darius Slay? And do you want to bracket Cooper Kupp, instead of manning up on him? So you take Darius Slay and you put him on OBJ, right? Or do you want Darius Slay to say, look, man, what we need to do is focus on the guy who's getting 10 plus targets and try to, you're not going to remove that guy from the game, but let's try to limit that down. And then we can bracket OBJ. I don't know how we match up against Higbee. That's going to be an interesting one. Tyler Higbee ate us up last year, if you guys remember. Now it's early on in the 2020 season, and we were a different team, but we got ate up, man. No doubt about it, guys. We definitely got ate up early on in that season against them. So I wonder here. They love to run outside zone. They're an outside zone running team, and they do have some pretty good running backs there. Sony Michel came over for them, and he's done really well for them. And then they have the young kid they drafted a couple years ago. His name's slipping my mind right now, but they got a pretty good 1 and 2 Henderson, Darrell Henderson. They got a pretty good 1 and 2 combination at running back. So offensively, the team has talent. So I would like to see what we could do from a pressure standpoint, because to get to Ali's point here, which is as good as Stafford can be, he will give you the football if you get him in the right position. You pressure him, he'll turn the ball over for you. But I will also say that Stafford has been a thorn in the Eagles' side. He's beaten us when he shouldn't have beaten us before. And I do wonder about that matchup, Ali, to be quite honest, because I think it's kind of an interesting matchup here. I don't know if this is a group that you would prefer more, because at least Cooper Kupp, you got OBJ, he's a veteran wide receiver. OBJ is not the same OBJ of 10 years ago, to where the dude was just almost unstoppable. OBJ is a different matchup. He's a different issue. He's a different guy now, right? He's a veteran guy. He can beat your guys, but it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting on what the approach is going to be from the coaching staff. But let me know y'all's thoughts, man. What do y'all think the approach will be? Would you agree that Slay is better than Diggs? Better in overall coverage, sure. Diggs is turning people over at an incredible rate. I mean, Diggs is a playmaker in his own right. Samuel Rose said, Stafford will throw 3 picks anyway. If you get him in the right, you got to get pressure on him. That's the thing. We need to get pressure on him. If you can get pressure on him, you know what I'm saying, you can do some things. Lizzie said, I feel Maddox can limit Kupp to an extent. Yeah, I mean, Kupp kind of poses the same interesting matchup situation we had with the Chargers. And, the way that we had to go into that game. And we did use Avonte Maddox, and we had mixed results. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, we were in the game, and if we could have got the ball back to our offense, we might have had a shot at winning. I'm not going to say we wouldn't have won it. We would have won that game, but there would have been an opportunity to steal a game there. It didn't ultimately work out that way, which stinks, but, it is what it is. Samuel Rose said that Kupp is Edelman on steroids. Allison said, can our inside defensive linemen penetrate against outside zone? I don't. They flow to the football. I don't think that's the problem per se, Allison. I wonder the range of the linebackers. Because Alex Singleton, I think, has the range. He's going to go sideline to sideline. TJ Edwards, we're going to have to see. I mean, early on in TJ's career, when I watched him come into Buffalo tried to hit us with some outside zone in that game. If you remember that Win Bowl game that we played them back in 2019, he was quite good. But I mean, we're it'll really be the first test of a team that's like really strong outside zone since San Francisco. So I don't really know. That's hard to say if that's the matchup. I don't know if that's going to be the matchup or not, guys, to be quite honest. Jeremiah said I would take Tampa over the Rams, honestly. Allison said Tampa schooled us, but they're down to Evans at at receiver though, and they got Gronk. I mean, they got tight end play. They got some decent tight end play, but yeah, I mean, they're probably not the same offensive juggernaut that they were earlier in the season. That's certain. What's up, Christian Jackson? He said you can put Anthony Harris on Odell Beckham Jr. and Steven Nelson to guard Cup. I don't know about that one, man. I don't know if I would put Anthony Harris. I mean, you can lean Anthony Harris as a safety over the top on somebody, but I'm not putting Anthony Harris in a man situation on Odell Beckham Jr. That's a mismatch. I wouldn't do that. Now, if I'm going to take a guy like Steven Nelson and line him up on OBJ on the outside and then lean someone like Harris over him, that's one thing. But we got to be careful because I think that's somewhat playing into their hand, Christian, and what they want us to do, right? They want us to commit to doing that. So then that way they can try to hit us on outside zone plays. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. I mean, are we going to fall back into a two deep zone a little bit more? Or are we going to see a little bit more of that where we've been rocking the safeties in the box for run support? We'll see. Cujo said, the best approach is to run the ball. They are going to score, eat the clock and bring pressure, force a turnover and run the clock out by running the ball. Philly Hat Time says is you have to blitz Stafford, but if you give him the option of first down, he'll take that all day long. Five and 9, we play Tampa Bay. 2 and 9, we play LA. 1 and 9, we play Dallas. And 1 and 9, we play Green Bay in the wild card round. From what I understand is, you got to look at it between how the results field out this upcoming weekend between Dallas. It's a bunch of them pushed up there, but right now the Rams have the second seed. So I think all the Rams really need to do is just win their game, and they're going to be the second seed. I don't know what Tampa would have to do. I'd have to look at the scenarios, guys. I don't know the scenarios for each team, in terms of who's going to be that second seed. We can definitely have that discussion tomorrow. We can talk a little bit more about seeding and how the scenarios are and what the matchups would be. But yeah, I mean, I understand why you guys want Tampa. You feel like they're down on the skill set so much that we might stand a better chance at limiting that offense, even if they have Tom Brady at quarterback. I get it. If Tyler Linderbaum is one of the offensive linemen on your board, do you think Howie takes him in the first round? Depending on the draft value and where they are, I mean, we know Howie loves offensive linemen. We know that Jason Kelsey's not going to play forever. What is the plan with Isaac Seumalo? I mean, Isaac Seumalo was naturally a center. To be quite frank, he was Carson Wentz's roommate in one of those elite camps. And, he was a center for Carson Wentz in that camp. So I don't know if they, Wentz isn't here anymore, but I don't know if they see Seumalo as a future center or not. Like, maybe that's how they want to shape that line because I don't think Landon Dickerson is leaving left guard. So then you got Driscoll and you got Herbig at right guard. Do you put, here's the thing. Do you put Isaac Seumalo into the picture at right guard and let him compete with Driscoll and go with a Linderbaum at center? Or do you know what I mean? Like, got to know how the organization's going to approach it. I don't know how they're going to approach it yet. But I do think that they value offensive linemen. So if they feel like the value is right, we know they won't hesitate to take an offensive lineman. Chris said, do you think we should try someone else returning punts just to try it? Devontae Smith or even Sanders if he's back? No, Sanders has that messed up hand. So Sanders probably is a definite no. Maybe next season, if that's what you're referring to. I could see that. Devontae Smith, I'd be concerned. There are other guys that do it that are, Rager's technically a starter, but I don't know if I would want Devontae Smith exposed to that. I would probably go in a different direction. Dante said, not worried at all. Look at our division. Why are you scared of any wide receiver? I do think that there's different levels to it though, Dante. Like when you look at like who you could potentially match up against, like Cooper Kupp and those guys are a little different, challenge. Now I will say Dallas, you're right in terms of Dallas. Dallas has got talent there, and they just took a big hit. They took a big hit, but they still got Cedric Wilson, who's a really good football player, even though Gallup, probably towards ACL, it looks like. So, they got, they got guys that can win too. I get it, but I don't know, man. At the end of the day, you got to face these guys eventually. I'm here late. Are you playing our starters this weekend? I was against it, but now I'm for it. We start so slow. Maybe we can get ahead in our minds. So you're talking about like playing them for the first quarter or something? Solo Bolo said, "What's up, Gate? What percentage of snaps does Maddox play? On average, probably about 70 some percent, somewhere in that area, because he's playing in the slot. There's probably, I'd imagine he's had a few games where he's really been up there just because of limitations in the secondary. But normally your slot's going to play about 70% of your snaps, maybe a little more depending on your scheme and your system." Yeah, I agree that Stafford has not been particularly good, Big Moose. I agree with that. In man situations, Allison, I think we can get in trouble. In man situations on tight ends, we do have trouble from time to time. King Music said he wants Green Bay. Our D line is going to have their best game, whoever we play in the wild card. I hope so. That would be a good time to have it. Good way of looking at it, Tito. If we beat the Rams in SoFi, we would have had experience before going back to SoFi in the Super Bowl. I like how you went from wild card win to we're going to the Super Bowl, Tito. I love that. Your pro comp for Linderbaum is Kelsey. Beat Blade God 2010 said, "Shout out to the people like me that supported Jalen Hurts from the beginning. He got us here with the team and rebuild. Counted him out when he was 2-5. Gunnar Minshew because he beat the Jets. Salty now." What is the real reason for the slow starts? I think some of it has to do with the timing of the schedule. When we caught guys, we had the bye week, then the game got pushed, then we had had to play those back-to-back consecutive games. I think all that stuff factors into it, to be honest. But I also think it has to do with that we've forsaken points too. We've had opportunity to score points, but we went for it on fourth down and things like that. We opted to try to go for things and took points off the board. And some of it has to do with the fact that it's got to be some level of preparation here that has to come out to say like, hey, man, we need to be better prepared for games early on. I definitely think that's part of it. Some of it has to do if your defense puts you down early. I think it can disrupt your rhythm. I think those things are true too. So it's a combination of things. It's never like one single thing that causes something like that to happen. All right, guys, we have been on here for an hour and 33 minutes. I appreciate y'all so much. I'm going to jump off here because we'll be back here tomorrow morning, 9:05 a.m. to do this. Thank y'all so much for tuning into this. Guys, don't forget, Monday through Thursday, 9:05 a.m., I will be here to talk. Come on in, guys. I love having y'all here, guys. If I can ask you to do me one favor, if you're not subscribed, consider maybe watching a couple of my videos and see if you like my content. I'm deep into film and stuff like that, guys. I get into the analytics. But number two, if you like this content today, if I can ask you a huge favor, hit the like button. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you guys on the next live stream. See y'all tomorrow, guys.